porn okay to watch?
So I don't think you can say that it is 100% bad. There are actually people out there that are making like sacred sexual porn videos. Like learn about women's anatomy. Many women do not even know about their own anatomy. That's the problem with pornography for most people, is that you have people, especially men, that are then wiring their psychology to be a dopamine addiction, right? And so then you have problems with like impotency and people not being able to maintain an erection because they're so disconnected from their body, and people are so starved for real connection to themselves and to others.
Hey, let's try BDSM, or hey, let's try to do a threesome, or hey, let's try to be in an open relationship. But you don't really know what you're getting into.
You have to be so comfortable talking about your sexuality to be able to explore that. So there's a lot of skill required, and there's so much benefit. And BDSM is very similar. So for exploring that, you have to be so tuned into your partner. And people don't really realize that if you have someone who's dominant and someone who's a sub, so say you're doing things like someone's being tied up and you're doing all this kinky play, the person who is the one being tied up is the one who's in control.
As tantric sex. So what exactly is that?
Yeah, what is tantric sex?
Yeah.
So tantric sex is more, if you want to explore open relationship, for example, you need to have amazing communication. Right? So just think of how hard it is to have good communication with one person. If you want to have healthy polyamorous relationships, you need to have excellent communication with multiple people.
What is it that women want? For all the men watching out there.
What do women want? Well, we all got naked.
Hey guys, welcome back to Explore with Ash. Today is the third video of the Sexual Intimacy Coaching and Tantra series. In this episode, I've done a Q&A session in which I've done a deep dive into topics such as sexuality, sexual intimacy, fetishes, modern day trends in sexual intimacy, etc. I've touched on some topics which are generally considered to be awkward and slightly embarrassing to be spoken in a public domain. So this video is packed with valuable insights, tips, tricks, and techniques to enhance your sexual lifestyle. So whether you're someone who's just curious or someone who's genuinely seeking some kind of guidance and information, this video is going to be highly beneficial for you guys. So let's spread some awareness together. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this video.
Evening, we've had an entire day of different kinds of practices and different meditations and different exercises. We've learned a lot of things about sexual intimacy and about coaching and about so many things about Tantra and healing. And it's a beautiful evening. It's kind of cloudy. So it's perfect. We're sipping some amazing tea. Thank you for the tea,
You're
Ariel.
welcome.
And we just thought that this is a perfect time for some burning questions, some important myths that we can debunk about sexual intimacy coaching or sexual intimacy in general, and the taboo around it and everything around it. So yeah, are you excited for this question and answer round, Ariel?
Definitely. I love it. I love the questions. I'm always so interested to see what people are going to ask, and I get very interesting questions.
Yeah. Okay. So let's straight get into it. Okay. So how would you define sexual intimacy coaching?
So it's different from person to person, but it's always going to involve people getting in touch with their bodies. So getting in touch with listening to your body, and a lot of times also repatterning your sexuality.
So it's different for different individuals.
Yeah, like some people will come and they'll work with their partner. So for some people it's couples coaching. For some people they're trying to address like some kind of dysfunction around their sexuality, something they want to improve. Some people want to learn about a spiritual approach to sexuality and intimacy. So it's really different from person to person.
Okay. Got it. Amazing. So what are some of the common misconceptions about sexual intimacy coaching?
Well, for some people, they think it might be all about just bigger orgasms. So, and it's not that it's not about that, or that you can't expand your pleasure, because you absolutely can, but people don't really understand that it's really a deep journey that's going to involve going into your emotions. Like we've talked about embracing your grief, moving through your rage. And I think when people really get it, they love it. Yeah. But usually I have to help them understand that It's really repatterning everything,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a journey into yourself.
Yeah.
Also, people will think it's more about like the other person, right? And they don't realize that you're developing this deep connection with yourself and your own sexual energy. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So next question. How do you feel, like if you have a new client coming in, you know, if it's an individual or if it's a couple, you know, and they are here for sexual intimacy coaching, maybe they're witnessing some issues in their relationship or their sexual life, and they are kind of nervous. They are kind of maybe embarrassed, right? Because as we discussed, this can be a taboo subject and not a lot of people are confident and open about even discussing this. So how do you approach a new client?
So I find it's really important to get to know someone before they come in and before we start working together. So I'll do consultation calls. I do free 30-minute consultation calls with everyone because I like to get to know them. And so people will ask me, where should I start? And I'll usually say, let's have a conversation so that I can assess what a good starting point is. Because for one person, they're going to start with, you know, just really breathing and taking it slow and learning to get into the body. Someone else might be ready to go to a totally different level. They're just ready. But if you take someone who's not ready and you try to throw them into the deep waters, they're going to feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then they can't do the work. They can't get into their body and become relaxed because they're way outside their comfort zone. So it's figuring out what's that perfect first step.
Yeah.
That's so important.
There's also something called as a sexual therapist or a sex therapist, and you are an intimacy coach, a sexual intimacy coach. What would be the primary difference between the two? Like,
well, you know, there's so many different titles that people use, and even me, I'm kind of using different titles sometimes. So sacred intimacy coach, Tantra coach, sacred sexual healer, because this area is really diverse, and you can have many people call themselves Tantra coach, and each of them could do a totally different thing. Right? So it's not really like a cookie cutter kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of got to explore each person and see what resonates with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what are some of the most common issues or problems that people come to you with? You know, like be it individuals or couples, what are some of the very common things that people come to you?
So for individuals, a lot of people feel that they want to get more connected with their sexual energy. They want to explore it. They want to understand what's possible for them. So I think they want to tap into that magic like we got into today. And there's also a lot of people that have a trauma or some kind of specific dysfunction that they're trying to work through, something that's blocking them that they want to heal. So that's another really big one. For couples, a lot of times they want to deepen intimacy and they may want to go on a journey together. Or maybe things have slowed down, like maybe they've been together 20 years and they want to spark, you know, the flame again.
Yeah. Spice
right?
things up.
Yeah. Or something's happened and they became disconnected and they want to reconnect.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really common one for couples.
Yeah.
And then just in general, people want to explore, like especially Tantra, like what is it? Oh, I want to know. I want to figure this out.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people are also kind of curious because now you talked about Tantra. These days we also get to see this term going out a lot because of the internet and social media as tantric sex. So what exactly is that?
Yeah, what is tantric sex?
Yeah.
So tantric sex is more a spiritual approach to your sexuality if you're doing it in the authentic way, right? And so there's lots of people using the word now. So how many people are really teaching the skills? I'm not sure. But you have to discover that. Each person, ask them the questions you need to ask. But you want to be able to get deeper into the body, start to connect with your breath, open up the energy, approach it as something that can bring healing and transformation, and even as a spiritual path. So when you're exploring it in that way, it changes the experience of your sexual connection. So, you know, you don't go in with it to the goal of having a specific outcome, like really important Tantra.
Yeah.
But then you can have really incredible benefits when your heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
We're in a time where people are a lot more free to explore than they ever have been. So a lot of people want to explore. And that's really fantastic because we're not all made the same. Okay. So like we're all wired different in terms of our sexuality, in terms of our desires, in terms of what turns us on and in terms of what fulfills us. So there's all these new alternative pathways. I mean, they're not new, but now I think we're getting permission more to explore them. So all of them though do require like skill sets. Okay. And people don't always realize that if you want to explore open relationship, for example, you need to have amazing communication. Right. So just think of how hard it is to have good communication with one person. If you want to have healthy, polyamorous relationships, you need to have excellent communication with multiple people. You need to know yourself and what you need and what you want and your boundaries and your desires. And then you need to be able to navigate that with everyone. So some people do it really, really well. There are some people out there, and some of those relationships are some of the healthiest relationships that you'll find because they have to work so hard in communication. There are many people who are not doing the work, and they're going out and they're having very superficial experiences, and they're not getting their cup filled. And that's because they don't really understand the skills that are required to do it in a healthy way. So a lot of the things that we talked about today would all apply to navigating polyamorous relationships as well, except you're like at expert level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And BDSM is very similar. So for exploring that, you have to be so tuned into your partner. And people don't really realize that if you have someone who's dominant and someone who's a sub, so say you're doing things like someone's being tied up and you're doing all this kinky play, the person who is the one being tied up is the one who's in control. So the person who is the dominant person is reading that person and listening for cues. And they've already had conversations about what's okay and what's not okay. You have to be so comfortable talking about your sexuality to be able to explore that. So there's a lot of skill required, and there's so much benefit from all of these things when they're approached the right way. But there's also a lot of people who don't really know what they're doing. Yeah. And then maybe it's not so healthy, right? Yeah.
So basically it can backfire.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
all of these things can backfire. Like I think, those are great tools if you are, in tune with your partner and you have great communication skills. But then if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it and, just because it's in trend or just because someone's asked you to, hey, let's try BDSM or hey, let's try to do a threesome or hey, let's try to be in an open relationship. But you don't really know what you're getting into. You're not fully in tune with your partner first. I think it can backfire really bad. Right?
And I think because in our culture, we have been, again, so shut down sexually and there's so much shame around it. People don't always take time to go, wow, this is totally new. I should probably research this, read a book, take a class, listen to a podcast. But that's the logical place to start is like, this is such a new thing. Learn about it first, right?
Exactly.
Instead of just like diving in without any awareness of how you might approach this because in terms of our sexuality, it really goes deep to our emotions, right? So our sexuality is a gateway to our heart. And it's a really deep thing to share sexual energy with someone. So we want to know what's feeling good for us, really be clear on what is an authentic yes for us and what feels okay in our body. Not just coming from a place of, oh, cool, that sounds fun. And then we get drunk and we go do it. But like treat yourself with so much gentleness and respect and care. And then you can have these really healing, incredible experiences.
Amazing.
There's this term called, some people will say like dark Tantra. Now, dark Tantra could be people doing like some weird voodoo magic kind of thing. Okay. Maybe not voodoo, but you can have people also misusing sexual energy. That is something that is very real and very damaging. Okay. But you also have people who are trying to help people go into their subconscious and work with their hidden desires, their hidden fears, even their traumas. Okay. So for example, if you had somebody and they had a history of abuse, okay, and they did not have power and they did not have the opportunity to decide what happens. And then that person has the chance to go into the role of being a dominant, right? So maybe they're doing things like they're spanking someone and things like that. They're having a chance to learn how to use their power. But if they're doing it in the right way, they're doing what the person who is receiving that wants. So they're starting to learn that it's like, oh, okay, like there's a way that this can happen and it can be associated with pleasure. So maybe for me, I had some energy misused towards me and I felt like I didn't have any agency. But now I'm learning how to be someone who is careful and respectful and tuned in and is using this for the pleasure of someone else. So that's a huge rewiring. And that's a huge rebuilding of trust for someone that feels like they don't have to shut down their power because power was misused on them. So you see the psychology in that? It's really, really deep. So, and then there's a lot of other people exploring things for so many reasons. And some people are doing it in a conscious way and some people are not. If you do it in a conscious way, you can achieve really incredible things, really a lot of healing can come from it. And everyone's on their own journey, their own wild ride.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting that there is some kind of association in the past, mostly with individuals who have this kind of fetishes, be it BDSM, be it all these fetishes that we're talking about, where people get to reclaim what was probably happening to them or what was kind of being done to, for example, if someone who's also faced a lot of abuse, as you said, and unfortunately, they can kind of get accustomed and used to being treated that way.
Exactly.
And maybe going forward or growing up, they would probably find that particular aspect of life appealing because that's what they've been subjected to for a long, long time.
People end up in the same patterns over and over. You literally have neural pathways that are formed as you're growing up. And that's what you're used to. And if you go outside of that, then it's uncomfortable. It's difficult for you. Or you may feel like, this doesn't even make sense to me. So you have to create these new pathways, right? So this is one way of doing it.
Wonderful. That's what is your advice for someone who's wanting to make their communication better? For example, couples, right? Or you even mentioned threesomes or people who are in an open marriage, open relationship, who want to explore multiple partners. What would be your advice for them to have better communication?
Okay, so first of all, communication is so important. It's everything. It's the foundation of the relationship. So you can literally see when a relationship is flowing, the communication is flowing, and as soon as the communication starts to fizzle out, you're going to have problems, like guaranteed. So always focus on that and strengthening that. And there's a lot of different ways that couples can strengthen that. So we did show a dyad earlier. That's a really beautiful exercise. There's something called nonviolent communication, and there's facilitators all over the world that teach it. There's books. It's amazing. So it's all about tuning into what someone is feeling and what they need. And it's just a whole different way of looking at communicating. So that I would say is one of the best things I ever found in terms of communication. And then there's little things like there's a book about love languages and just starting to learn what really works for your partner. And, you can look at things like the Enneagram was huge for me. So there's a lot of different things you can explore. But at the end of the day, always be curious and try to keep learning about your partner and about yourself and find ways to share what you're learning and enhance your communication. You'll never go wrong doing that.
Amazing. In the past 10 years, there's been a huge rise, as almost like a meteoric rise in social media, digital, stuff and technology, and people always hooked onto their screens, and there's just hyper stimulation all the time. We have reels and all these things which are kind of focused on keeping you hooked and giving you all this graphic content out there, right? I also want to know your take on pornography a little bit later, but back in the day when these apps, Instagram and Snapchat, all of these apps were not there. There were like websites where people used to access to, see those graphic images and videos and stuff. But nowadays, those kind of images and videos are quite easily available on Instagram or Twitter. Pretty much, Twitter hardly has any kind of restrictions. And a teenager has easy access to all of these apps. So in general, amongst adult couples or even teenagers or even anyone in general, what's the change? What's the trend being like? What is the issues that we're facing today?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say it gives the illusion, seeing all of this, that people are more sexually free, and they're definitely not. Because like we said, it's really about how conscious we are and how connected we actually are to our own sexual energy. And a lot of this that's being shared out in the world is not people who are really connected to their own self. And it's really people just wanting to be able to like gain popularity or gain some quick money and things like that. So it does a disservice. And it also is teaching people this dopamine response. Okay. So people get like a quick lust response and they get a dopamine flare and they get addiction. And that's the problem with pornography for most people, is that you have people, especially men, that are then wiring their psychology to be a dopamine addiction, right? And so then you have problems with like impotency and people not being able to maintain an erection because they're so disconnected from their body, and people are so starved for real connection to themselves and to others. So this is a huge issue. And one of the things that you see happening with everyone across the board, and it doesn't matter whether the people who are watching porn or not watching porn, or just everyone across the board, I see a lot of people that are in their stress body and their stress response, and then they're having problems with intimacy and connection and sexuality. And that's why the first thing is, let's get into the breath, let's get into the body, let's start to build those pathways and help show you all of the beautiful things that happen when you're connected to yourself. Like, that's where the magic happens. And we're taught that it's something you get externally, but it's something that you get internally, right? And then it all flows from there. So that's number one. The other thing we hit on before that was really an amazing point was about men having a hard time being in their healthy masculine. So actually a lot of men have their masculinity quite shut down and feel afraid to get into their masculine power because they have no models for how to do that in a healthy way. And a lot of women have become hyper masculine in the way that they're very stressed out. They're more goal oriented and they have a hard time dropping into their bodies and being receptive. So everything's pretty waggy. And so when people come in, I let them know you're really not alone. Like, you're going through this. And it's so common because our culture is creating those circumstances.
Like, according to you, is porn okay to watch?
So I don't think you can say that it is 100% bad, but you have to be aware of how prevalent porn addiction is and what it's doing to your psychology. There are actually people out there that are making like sacred sexual porn videos, but that's not what most porn is. And most porn is not realistic and it doesn't show healthy intimacy. And so that's what people are growing up with as their sex education. And that is a huge issue. So again, you can't paint everything with one brush and just say, this is good, this is bad. You have to look at what's the quality of it, what's it doing, what are the effects, what's the intention behind it. All of these things come into play.
I think for men, what porn does is also it completely smashes their confidence of being able to perform when it comes to actual intimacy and actual sex with their partners. Because what you see in porn is this hyper masculine guy who's, who has a massive erection for 4 hours, 3 hours, which I'm not too sure if it's real, like if it's natural, if they're taking any medication, tons of medications and injections and all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah. And that's really harming the individual's sort of confidence. And what porn also does is that it's actually, as you said so rightly, it's giving them that dopamine hit for a small amount of time. Yeah. And that's also kind of resulting in men not being able to last longer in bed because their porn watching episode lasts probably for like a minute or two. Yeah. So when you're watching porn and you're done in like under 2 minutes, that's exactly what's happening when you're actually with your partner.
Yeah. And you're disconnected from your body, right? So it's all about this external stimulus and it's quick, like you said, and you're getting that dopamine. You're not getting the benefit of the oxytocin and the bonding that happens. And you're not getting the skills that are required when you build a relationship with someone and you have these wangy notions of what women want. Yeah. So yeah, there are so many issues with it. And for a lot of men, it can also replace a real relationship. Where think of it like eating junk food. Like if you eat a bunch of McDonald's, like, okay, maybe you feel full for a minute, but ultimately it's not really nourishing you and it's not supporting you. So yeah, get off of it. Yeah. Go out there, meet people, build skills, learn about communication, read books about women's pleasure and anatomy. Like if you want to have healthy sexuality and you're a man, start practicing your breathing and start learning and be interested about women.
Yeah, exactly. What is it that women want? For all the men watching out
what
there.
do women want? Well, many things. But we want to, a lot of women want to feel emotionally connected, and we feel more emotionally connected when we're receiving presence. So from a tantric standpoint, the feminine opens and her energy opens when there is presence and there is safety and there is containment. Okay. So when a man really knows how to be present and centered in his own energy, and she can feel that he's there and he's not, wanting to just like, let's get to an orgasm with this woman, but he's just there with her and he's able to just be in himself and centered, then a woman can really open up and feel more safety and more trust. The other big thing I just mentioned, like learn about women's anatomy. Many women do not even know about their own anatomy. So there hasn't been even a lot of research about women's pleasure up until the last few decades. And there's a lot more available now. So men and women, we all need to be learning this, right? Because our anatomy is complex and multi-layered and beautiful. And there's so much available to men and women as we learn about it, because the woman really is the one who is holding this deep, deep connection to pleasure. Right? Multi-orgasmic pleasure, which is available to men as well. If they really learn their bodies and they learn how to work with their orgasm, you can actually separate the orgasm from the ejaculation, and men can also be multi-orgasmic and they can have full body orgasms. But yeah, right now where a lot of people are stuck is that there hasn't been a lot of knowledge about women's arousal and sexuality and anatomy. So we should all go to school and learn this beautiful art.
We also were speaking about the linga massage and the yoni massages.
Yeah.
Can you explain what those are exactly?
So in a really short way of saying it would be devotional touch.
Okay.
Like devotional healing touch for the linga or the yoni, right? So linga, penis, yoni, vagina. These are Sanskrit words. And one of the reasons why we like to use them is because they're so beautiful. So like lingam means wand of light. Right. So this kind of understanding of our sexuality as something that's so sacred was part of the traditions of some ancient cultures, like in India, also in China. Also, many indigenous communities have this understanding. And then in our modern Western world, it's very scientific, right? And it doesn't hold the same level of reverence and make you feel like, oh, well, this is a part of me that I should be very devotional with. But when we act that way, with our own sexuality, then we start to receive the healing benefits of it. Mm-hmm. And with our partners as well. It's just such a different experience. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And have you been involved in that kind of services that you provide, like linga massages, yoni massages, and have you had any client stories, success stories, how has it helped, or anything from your experience that you've been a part of this and you're doing it?
Yeah, so I work a lot with couples, teaching them how to offer this to each other. So sometimes, we take a little bit of time and we work through some of what we were learning today, learning about the breath, learning about the energy, helping both people to feel really safe and present with each other. And then once we're able to, if the couple's ready, then we can start to learn the art of Tantra massage. So that's going to involve certain kinds of massage strokes that really relax the nervous system, helping them to be able to breathe into everything and really expand the present moment awareness, starting to understand how to move that energy up through the body so that it's something that's going on for quite some time and we're going through peaks and valleys of pleasure and we're just starting to build it and build it and build it and continually move it through the body. So even when we're working with the lingam or the yoni, we're practicing that art, right? So it's so much more than just the touch, right? It's a much deeper experience. And what I've seen with really everyone who's learned this, it's really, really beautiful with couples, right? When you just see them, especially the women, just feeling so healed, so nourished, so seen, and you see their pleasure open and their hearts open. And then you see the men and they're just feeling so happy that they're giving this.
So, Ariel, we've touched on a lot of amazing points and it's really been rewarding in so many ways to know about so many interesting insights into your profession. I would just like to know, like after more than a decade of doing what you do, how do you keep going? Like, what is the secret to, not only wanting to do it, but having the same amount of passion that you had probably the first day when you're starting it out. And I saw that today, the entire day we did so many exercises. It was a full day of so much work, so much healing, so much conversation, so much filming, but your energy was always constant. It was always right there. And, that smile and everything, it was just radiating and glowing. How do you manage to continue this amount of interest towards this profession?
So I think it's so important for me that I keep going on my own journey. So I have to continually deepen my own connection to myself. I have to keep exploring where do I need to go with my own sexual healing, with my own intimacy. And then when I continue to go through more layers and I experience the magic of it, then it renews me and I get new ideas and I get excited to share new things with others. And for me, it's also really important that I stay connected with others and others who are in this community. So I really try to stay connected with other practitioners and I try to build some community amongst us because that really supports me. And clients, like just whenever I hear from clients and they have positive experiences, it just means so much. It's so beautiful. So every time I get to experience the work with others, then that rekindles, my passion. So yeah, it's just goes on. And then I find new ways sometimes of sharing it, right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And what do you think has been the most rewarding thing about your journey so far?
So I started training practitioners a few years ago and it's been all women so far. I've trained a little bit with men, but not taken them through the whole journey. With the women who are starting to do this work, watching them start to give their gift and embrace their inner goddess and share their juicy medicine with the world and really watching them take off with that and then benefit the lives of others. That is so amazing. Like when they come back and they launch their new website or they start putting themselves out there and then they say, somebody came in and I helped them with this and they told me how much it changed their life, or this couple came in. I'm just in awe.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so cool.
Do you have any interesting, fun story about your plans, about your work, any funny incident?
I'll share one cool one that I think is good because it's to do with some of the practitioners. So we had this practitioner training. I've done a few where we go and we do a retreat, and I'm usually working with people over a bunch of months, and then we all get together and we do in-person training. So at the end of one of them, I don't know why we decided to do this, but there's this game I learned so long ago and it's called a scream race. So you run as fast as you can, you scream as loud as you can, and then you sit down when you can't run or scream anymore. So what we did at the end of this weekend is we all got naked. And then we all ran and we did this scream race. And so it was so amazing. You have all these naked people all just running, screaming at the top of their lungs out in the nature. And then we had it filmed too. Somebody filmed it. Like that's not available to the public, but somebody filmed it. Yeah, somebody filmed it and then they put it in slow-mo.
Oh, wow.
So like that was hilarious. And honestly, like with this work, it's so good to be able to laugh. And I do a lot of laughing with people that I work with. And it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like some of this stuff is so funny, right?
We had great laughs today. We had some incredible light moments today. And that's really amazing.
So,
awesome. And one last question. Is there any message you would like to give out to anyone who's curious about this? Because I was curious. I came here. I spent the entire day with you.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people would be able to do that. But then this video might get to a lot of people. So is there a message you would want to give out to people who are curious about sexual intimacy coaching or sexual intimacy in general? Anything.
Just don't be nervous. If you want to reach out, take a baby step, right? So like our app, you can dive into that. You can get into, we have a podcast in there. There's a What is Tantra course. You can like dip your baby toe in, or, set up a call if you're feeling like, oh, I really feel like I want to explore this. You don't need to know what you want to start with, okay? Because nobody does, because we never learned all of this stuff. So a lot of people, when they do reach out, they're like, oh, I'm struggling with this, but I don't know where to start. And that's what will keep people from trying it, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? It can feel a little daunting, but once you get into it, you realize that it's not scary. It's super fun and it's very beautiful, and nurturing and supportive work. So
I had the best chat here with Ariel. Thank you so much, Ariel, for this amazing conversation. We touched on some things which, a lot of people out there have some misconceptions about and are curious about and are confused about. So all in all, a great chat.
Awesome.
And just thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You did great. You had such an open mind and so curious and so excited. And
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that was it. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I know there was a lot of juicy stuff in there, but I truly hope you guys liked it. I truly hope you got some valuable insights and information from that video. This is just a small attempt to create awareness amongst all of us. So thank you so much for sticking with me till the end. As always, please like, share and subscribe. Please let me know in the comments what was the best question, what was the best part about this video, and stay tuned for more such content. See you guys next time. Bye.